And, of course, we keep you feeling good. I'm a frog in my throat to start the segment this morning, but it is time to talk to the doc, Dr. Tim McKnight, in studio. Good morning.
Good morning. I have the stethoscope if you want me to take a listen.
I don't know what's going on here. I just go to talk and I lose my voice. Can you prescribe something, I guess, is maybe a tea with lemon would be
that
the
sounds
answer.
Good. Yeah, why don't you start with that?
That's a good thing. I saw this story and I thought I got to mention this to you. I was reading this. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey was on a recent interview and he said he only eats 7 meals a week. He says only dinner, and he calls it his extreme fasting, and he says he just eats dinner once a day. That's all he eats, usually between 6:30 and 9 p.m., and usually for him it's a big meal of chicken, fish, or steak, lots of greens, spinach, asparagus, and then for dessert, he usually has something with dark chocolate and berries, and occasionally a red wine for a drink as well. So how about that? I know you talk about the intermittent fasting. Is that a little extreme?
No, I think that sounds pretty good. I don't know about, I wouldn't go too heavy on the animal protein, but, it sounds like a very good diet. I'm sure
one meal a day, though. I mean,
I know it sounds hard, doesn't it? But tell you, when you start doing it, we can talk about the hormone that shuts off that appetite. But I bet you he's not that hungry now that he's into it.
Well, the funny thing is that if I only ate one meal like that, I would be so hungry I'd end up eating, too much. That's my concern about that. Only once a day is I would be so hungry that I couldn't stop eating. Maybe.
Well, you probably would feel that hunger the first couple days, and then once you got into it, your stomach would say, "Hey, I'm satisfied. I can't believe I'm only eating 2/3 of what's on my plate." Mm-hmm. So this is about hormones. This is about the body changing, the stomach size changes, and you feel satisfied much sooner than you would if you were eating all day long.
But for example, if he has a sugar issue, waiting that long, his sugar levels will be all over the place, only eating that one meal once a day. How does he adjust to that?
I think if that's truly what he's eating, I'm sure he's down-regulating insulin receptors, so his sugar is improving. And if he continues the same medication for his diabetes, then he would have to reduce the amount of medication. But that's probably a pretty effective way to lose weight and get healthy.
Usually it's a high-profile guy like this that makes it known, and next thing you know, everybody will be on this one meal a day kick, and it'll be the new diet trend. I read that last week too, that we go through I think it was like 126 diets in the course of our life. 126. That comes down to about 2 diets a year.
Yeah.
I had no idea there were so many diets out there, but it seems like every year somebody has something new.
It shows you how desperate people are to lose weight, and also how difficult it is. But if you understand a few of these simple concepts, it starts to work. I put together a presentation a couple years ago on the obesity puzzle, and there's several pieces of the puzzle that never get talked about, and I think all those things have to be remembered. But what I really like about this diet is he is not eating a lot of junk. He's eating really healthy during that one meal. So I bet you he's very effective with this.
All right. Well, that would be my next question. When he's doing it for dinner, he says, usually between 6:30 and 9 p.m., how do you know what's right for you? Maybe you'd get up in the morning and you'd need to eat that big meal as a breakfast and then don't eat any more until the next day, or maybe it's a lunch, or how do you decide what time of the day is best to get your best productivity out of your body?
Well, I think there's a few things. One is just that conditioned idea that 3 meals a day we have to because our mom taught us that, right?
Yeah.
And that's called confirmational bias. We would never challenge our mother's teaching, and despite what all the experts say, right? But the other thing is, I don't think we should go to bed with a really full bloated stomach. That also doesn't make sense.
Right.
But if you really become in tune with what your body is saying, I think you probably figure it out, what meal is the best for you with your schedule. But as I've been telling patients recently, a couple hundred years ago, if you lived here in this county in a log cabin someplace, food wasn't guaranteed.
Yes.
You weren't going to be able to necessarily eat 3 meals a day. You might get some chickens in the morning from the chicken coop, but some of those other meals might not be promised.
Right.
So you have to adapt, and you eat when the food's available.
We're talking with Dr. Tim McKnight. It's our Talk to the Doc segment presented by Mako's Market and Pharmacy in downtown Uricksville. Stop in and take a look around at the pharmacy at Mako's. Full service, very knowledgeable pharmacist at Mako's. They can help you with any of your medical questions, including diet and including supplements. Very much know what they are doing down at Mako's. Hard to believe that we are heading into week 3 of Fit for Life already in the new program.
Yeah, and I am so excited about this class. We have a big group, a very enthusiastic group, and there's some amazing stories. And I've mentioned in the class, everybody has a story. And you sit next to someone in a class like that you don't know, and you have no idea what type of a story they're coming in with, what they've been through, what they've overcome, what they're dealing with. Yeah. And once you hear these stories, I just feel so much compassion and so much commitment to try to help them, because they're honest, they're sincere, they're working, they're striving, they want to heal, and they just need a little guidance. And one of the things that's really amazed me with this group, because they're pretty talkative to me, at least after the class, are the emotional struggles they've had and how that's been impacted by food. And how food has played a part in overeating or eating the wrong things, which leads to their health conditions. But if we don't address those emotional issues, we really miss the boat. And so we're going to help them tonight to rewire their brains, to kind of put some of those emotional that baggage behind them, and to stop those subconscious tape recorded messages that are subliminal, but that they hear all the time.
Right.
And this comes from past messages they've heard.
One of the things that I always liked about you was the fact that you're very positive when you're talking to the class, or when you're talking to anybody for that matter. Your patients that come into the office, is that your body is an amazing machine, and that if you treat it badly for a long time, it's going to start falling apart. It's going to not work well. But if you start to learn what you need to do to change, you always say how quickly that can happen with your body. And I've always found that amazing, because I don't think a lot of people realize how quickly you can turn it around.
Right.
The human machine is incredible.
And that's one of the most exciting messages for me, because we look in the mirror every day and we don't really see much of a change, or we step on the scales, we don't see much of a change. But I'm going to present tonight several examples of how quickly the body can change. Within, if you stand up every day and you try to reach down to touch your toes, some of us can only get halfway down to our shins or our knees.
Right.
Within a week's time, you can extend that reach anywhere from 3 to 6 inches. That's amazing. I started a couple weeks ago. I was able to get down about 6 inches from the floor. Now I've got my knuckles on the floor when I do that reach. I will soon have my palms there, which I had years ago. And that's just one example. But we talk about things like nitric oxide, how your nitric oxide production can be enhanced very quickly or diminished very quickly based on what you eat. The bacteria in the gut, they change their genetic expression within 24 hours of the food that's been presented to it, whether it's good or bad. That's amazing. And if people understand that, they might feel like, okay, I'm going to commit to this because my body does change. It does respond. And if you stick with it, you'll start to see those physical changes. You'll start to feel it in your joints and in your body within weeks, sometimes days.
And I can see that when you talk to certain people, that it's enlightening for you to hear these stories of people that had been really struggling to feel good, and when they take the advice and listen to what you're saying about just basic changes, how much of a difference and how much different they feel and how much better their quality of life is.
Right. And and there's a lot of toxicity in our lives, whether it's contaminated foods we eat or people in our lives. And some of the participants have said the most important thing I did in this class was get rid of a toxic relationship. And that's part of healing. It's not always about food. Sometimes you have to heal at that level. Sometimes you just have to accept who you are, where you are, and forgive yourself for the past and move on. And a lot of people just want to know that there's somebody there that believes they can change.
Good advice, as always. We're talking with Dr. Tim McKnight, Talk to the Doc, presented by Mako's Market and Pharmacy. So I guess what you're saying, and boy, attacking Mom and what those things that Mom told us, 3 meals. The other thing
that's a tough one. Isn't it?
Yeah, you're gonna
sorry, Mom.
Yeah, you're going to be in some big trouble here. This one I can remember probably longer than anything. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Are you disputing that?
Well, not necessarily. Breakfast could technically, by definition, come at any time. It's the meal after you've had the longest fast, right? So breakfast for this gentleman you talked about on Twitter is his evening meal. So it doesn't really matter when you eat that meal. It's just it's kind of like the theory of muscle confusion to make your muscles stronger. It's kind of like a mealtime confusion. If your body doesn't know when it's going to eat again, and if you're mixing it up or you're extending the duration, it tends to respond, and the genetics respond to that environmental pressure, good or bad. So I think it's a great concept, this intermittent fasting.
And somebody would challenge you and say, well, the intermittent fasting would be the time between breakfast and lunch, or lunch and dinner. So I am intermittent fasting, but you're talking it has to be at least say a 12-hour period.
They're saying,
or so.
Yeah, the experts and the researchers is saying 16 to 18 hours is kind of the minimum. But then you throw in a 24-hour fast, or a 36, or even a 48-hour fast. And when I say that, people look at me and shake their head. No way could I do that.
Yeah.
Well, the people that do this can do that pretty easily because their appetite has been downregulated. They don't feel that strong urge to eat. That's strictly hormonal.
And that is one of the challenges. That's one of the things that you throw out there for Fit for Life is we did that challenge of the long fast, and it's tough.
Yeah,
very tough.
Yeah, it is tough. But I'm going to ask the participants this week how'd they do, and 75% of them are going to say it wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Good advice as always, and we'll look forward to talking again next week.
Thank you. I'd like to be here.
Dr. Tim McKnight with good advice as always. Talk to the Doc, presented by Mako's Market and Pharmacy in downtown Uricksville. Come in, check out your local pharmacy at Mako's. Doing a great job for you. You can give them a call at 740-922-5400 and talk to the Doc every Tuesday morning on Big Hits WBTC.